The world, facts.
He was a planner, a leader, a genius, but he did not want to become a politician. He wanted to be a painter, and wanted to entertain the world with his art. But then his hands took hold of the gun, and a part of the world was consumed in the fire of his vengeance. The world we live in today is filled with fear of his name. Designs ranging, from the atomic bomb to aerial bombardment, were developed in his laboratory. The person we are going to talk about was named Hitler. Who was Hitler, and why is his name feared in this world? This is what we will know today. I'm Jerky's Aaron, and you're watching The World Facts. British soldiers used poison gas, while Hitler was serving, as a postman, on the Belgium and France fronts. Everyone used masks, to avoid this poisonous gas, but because of Hitler's large mustache, the mask did not properly protect the mouth, so at that time Hitler cut his mustache, from both sides, so that the mask could be used properly, and then he became famous for his mustache. Hitler's eyes were also severely affected by the poisonous gas, and he became blind. After the treatment, his eyesight returned, but his eyes were now burning with revenge against Germany's enemies. Hitler was born and raised in Austria, but after the war, he became a full-fledged German. Hitler wanted to be a painter, but now the fire of revenge was burning inside him. So he decided to enter politics. Hitler began his political career with a small, unknown party, called the German Workers' Party. Later on, this party became known as the Nazi Party. This party was formed by those Germans and soldiers who wanted to avenge the First World War, because after the First World War, Great Britain and France occupied many areas of Germany that had been part of Germany for centuries. Apart from this, many damages were taken from Germany to cover the loss of Britain and Britain's allies. The amount of this damage was equal to 96,000 ton gold. The Nazi Party, which was called German Workers' Party, was created against all these evils on Germany, so it quickly became popular with the masses. Hitler was in charge of propaganda in this party, but in 1921, he was elected as the leader of the party. And the interesting thing is that Hitler refused to lead the party, but when he saw the party going into decline, he took over the leadership of the party. After taking over the presidency of the Nazi Party, Hitler also chose the symbol of the party himself. This mark was, and still is used in India. Hindus considered this sign to be a symbol of spirituality. During Hitler's reign, this sign was considered a sign of good luck in Europe. Many companies used this logo in their advertisements at that time. This sign, which was a symbol of good luck and prosperity, Hitler turned it into a symbol of destruction and terror. The Nazi Party was a grassroots party, but when former First World War hero, General Ludendorff, joined it, the popularity of the party increased. Ludendorff was a fearless commander of the German army. He had badly defeated the Russian army in the First World War, but when British troops entered the field, Ludendorff lost. Now Dorff was inciting the public by blaming the politicians for his political fame. This increased Hitler's power. He wanted to revolutionize Germany. For this, he formed an other dynamic organization, called SA, whose workers wore brown shirts. These workers were sworn to die in the name of Hitler. When Mussolini succeeded in Italy, the following year, Hitler felt that he too could achieve a similar success. Now Hitler was looking for an opportunity for revolution, and this opportunity was provided to him by Ruhr. Ruhr is a region of Germany, located west of Berlin, on the border with the Netherlands. There were coal mines and steel factories in the area. When Germany could not pay the price of damages, France and Belgium occupied Ruhr in January 1930. It was an industrial area, so its importance was very high. The purpose of occupying it is that the Allies can fulfill their obligations. The Allies occupied these factories, but they rehired German workers, who had worked there, and had work experience. To prevent the Allies from taking advantage, Germany ordered its workers to sit at home and the government would pay them to stay at home. But there was no money in Germany's coffers, so to meet this shortage, they started printing notes. The damage caused by this was that the value of German currency fell drastically. This value came down so much that a double loaf of bread in Germany began to cost 2 billion marks. The result of printing notes in this way was that people started burning notes instead of wood. They used to fill bags and carry notes to buy food. All the wealth lying in the banks became worthless, and within a few days, the billionaires became beggars. In these days of depression, Germany began to look towards revolution and started waiting for a messiah. In addition to the Nazi Party, which was formerly known as the German Workers' Party, Hitler created another party called SA. This SA party, which consisted of enthusiastic youth, had completed all its arrangements to bring revolution in the country. There were 3,000 soldiers at this party in Munich city. Hitler was now going to start the revolution, so he chose Munich's beer hall. On November 8, 1923, Hitler entered the beer hall, brandishing a pistol, and declared Nazi Party rule the city. The day after the announcement, Hitler marched with thousands of his workers to occupy the center. Hitler thought that he would gain popularity and power like Mussolini, but this proved to be a delusion of color. The German police opened fire on these Nazi workers in the center. In retaliation, the Nazi workers also fired 12 Nazis, and 4 policemen were killed in the battle, but the field remained under the control of police. This first attempt at a revolution, which we can call a coup, was crushed by the police, and many Nazi Party workers were arrested. Hitler escaped, but was captured 2 days later. Hitler and World War I hero, Dorf, were also captured in this coup. Dorf and Hitler were put on trial. Ludendorff escaped because of his influence, while Hitler was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Later, the Nazi Party used its power to release Hitler after 9 months. Hitler wrote a book in prison called Mein Kampf. In this book, Hitler presented the German Aryan race as the superior race, and said that the world's problems could be solved when the world was ruled by Germany. Hitler attributed the downfall of Germany to the Jews. When Hitler was in prison, the situation in Germany got worse, instead of better, because Hitler rebelled against the system, and the people, who were fed up with the system and inflation, were now looking to him. He had become popular all over Germany. From this failure, Hitler learned the lesson that it is easier to bring about revolution in Germany with a ballot than with a bullet. When Hitler got out of prison, he prepared his party for politics. France and Belgium, on the other hand, evacuated the Ruhr, as the United States of America gave Germany huge loans to pay reparations and industrialize. In addition, the United States gave guarantees to France and Belgium on behalf of Germany that they would be paid reparations. On the other hand, Hitler felt the need for a competent person to run party propaganda to succeed in politics, and in his eyes, this worthy man was Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels' feet were crooked from childhood due to polio, but he was a master of propaganda. He said, "Tell lies so much and continuously that they start to sound like the truth." Hitler's decision to put Goebbels in charge of propaganda proved correct. Goebbels spread Hitler's ideas throughout Germany. At the second stage, the party was facing the problem of funds. This problem was solved very quickly, and the reason for this was the communist faction. These communists were gaining political power with the help of trade unions. The rich and middle class of Germany feared them. The rich were in danger of being robbed of their factories by these communists, so the owners of these factories helped Hitler with funds. To improve his public image, Hitler made it known that he was a simple man who abstained from cigarettes, alcohol and meat, and that he was vegetarian. Out of fear of Hitler, members of the Nazi Party, formerly the German Workers' Party, secretly smoked. It is a different matter that Hitler himself used to be addicted to opium. But Hitler's public image, Goebbels' propaganda, and the funding of the wealthy class did not work for Hitler either, and when the parliamentary elections were held in 1928, the Nazi Party won only 12 seats out of the 647 seats in parliament, and got 2.6% public vote. This was very bad news for Hitler. But Hitler was lucky to rule Germany, so the very next year, on October 29, 1929, the American stock market crashed, and the whole world was affected by it. America had to stop funding Germany. Factories closed in Germany, 61,000 workers became unemployed. Hitler took advantage of these conditions, and presented himself as the Messiah. The German government had resigned, due to the economic crisis. In 1930, Hitler won 18% of the votes, which were insufficient to form a government. Meanwhile, Hitler suffered a shock, when his beloved Jelly Robbel committed suicide. Jelly Robbel was the daughter of Hitler's half-sister. Hitler was in shock for weeks, and declared Jelly the love of his life. But then, Hitler later fell in love with Eva Braun, a shop worker. Eva Braun was very beautiful, she was also fond of gymnastics. She was a party girl. Eva was not interested in politics. Hitler hid his love from the public for years, because it was widely known that Hitler loved Germany, and that he was married to a German. It's not fun. Only a few of Hitler's closest associates knew of Eva. Now there was only one obstacle on Hitler's political career, and that was the old German president, Hindenburg. He had been the leader of Germany in the First World War, and was revered as a god in Germany. This old president considered Hitler dangerous, and was not ready to make Hitler chancellor under any circumstances. When the presidential elections were held in 1935, Hitler stood up to him. When the elections were held in April, Hitler got 36% of the votes, but Hindenburg won the election. On the other hand, due to the economic crisis, the second chancellor also resigned. In July 1932, when the parliamentary election were held again, the Nazi Party won 230 seats out of 647, but the old president still didn't make Hitler chancellor, and the one he made failed too, and had to be re-elected in November. This time the Nazi Party's seats remained 196, but still they had majority in parliament. But the old president was still adamant, and was not ready to make Hitler chancellor. At the time, Franz von Papen was made the new chancellor of Germany, but even he could not fix the situation in the country. Now Papen also started thinking that Hitler should be made chancellor of the country. Papen started lobbying to convince the president. The president had only one objection, that if Hitler came to the government, who would stop him from becoming a dictator. Eventually it was decided that Hitler would be the chancellor, and Papen, vice-chancellor of Germany, to prevent Hitler from becoming a dictator. Under this formula, Hitler was made chancellor on January 30, 1933, and Papen vice-chancellor. Let me add one more thing. 1 month before, when Hitler became chancellor, a 52-year-old Jew realized the situation and left Germany. The man was also offered to become the first president of the current Israel, but he gratefully declined. This man was Albert Einstein, the greatest scientist of the 20th century. A month after Hitler became chancellor, he called another election to increase his seats. During the preparations for the election, on February 27, communists attacked the German parliament building and set it on fire. Hitler took advantage of this opportunity to create propaganda against the communists and was able to gain more votes. This time, the Nazi Party won 280 seats out of 647 seats in the March 5 election. On March 23, 1933, Hitler took power from the parliament as a dictator. Hitler gets power, bans other parties, abolishes trade unions, closes opposition newspapers, and started burning books that did not conform to the Nazi ideology. Now Hitler needed the German army to succeed in government. The German army was disgusted with Ernst Röhm, the commander of Hitler's SA party. Röhm used to attack the meetings of anti-Hitler parties. The German army believed that Röhm could be a threat to the survival of the German army. So, Hitler hatches a plan to get the Röhm out of the way to get the army to join him. On the night of June 23, 1934, Hitler killed Röhm, along with 400 of his colleagues, through one of his forces. Those killed were those whom the German army considered a threat. This night is called the Night of the Long Knives. This incident improved relations between Hitler and the army. Hitler also sent Vice-Chancellor Pepin home 3 days after the incident. Even after killing Röhm, Hitler did not disband the SA, but continued to run it through new commanders. The SA's secret police, known as the Stormtroopers, were the most rapid and infamous in crushing Hitler's opponents. After the death of Hindenburg in 1934, Hitler became the president of Germany and the commander-in-chief of the army. Then, by abolishing the post of chancellor and president, Hitler made it a single post, and the name of this post was Führer. The opposition parties were banned, the parliament had given all the powers to Hitler, now there was no need for any elections. On Hitler's order, all courts and police were placed under the control of the Nazi Party. Judges also had to take a special oath of loyalty to Hitler. An interesting thing about Hitler is that Hitler had no source of income, he used to live from the party funds. After assuming power, Hitler made the purchase of his book, Mein Kampf, mandatory for all government institutions. By 1939, 5 million copies of the book had been sold, and apparently the money ended up in Hitler's pocket. During his reign, Hitler made a fortune of $5 billion. But Hitler did not make wealth only for himself, but also spent generously on the people. He started numerous projects, including schools and hospitals, and gave subsidies to farmers. In the early days of Hitler's rule, no German was unemployed, except for the Jews. People were crazy about Hitler. After gaining wealth and all power, Hitler now turned his attention to the foreign front. Hitler stopped paying reparations to foreign powers, giving the government plenty of money for development work. He withdrew from the United Nations, i.e. the League of Nations, and also ended all international agreements. Western powers, reeling from the Great Depression, could not take any action against it. Germany was also restricted from building a navy after its defeat in World War I. But in 1935, Britain surprisingly allowed Germany to build a navy. In the same year, Germany increased the strength of its army 5 times to 500,000. Military training was also made compulsory for all Germans between the ages of 18 and 25. After completing these tasks, Hitler began to be harsh on the Jews. Hitler banned Jews from marrying Germans, voting, and working. Even in 1936, Jews could not participate in the Berlin Olympics, but through the Olympics, Hitler was able to give the impression to the world that Germany was a peaceful and developed country. Germany won 43 gold medals at the Olympics. Even after the Olympics, Hitler's harsh measures against the Jews continued. Anti-Jewish material was included in the children's curriculum. Children were taught to hate a certain group. Hitler is also accused of killing 60,000 Jews in what is now called the Holocaust. But do you know what was found in the DNA of Hitler, who hated Jews so much? That Hitler's genealogy is similar to tribes in Africa and Jews. Not only that, Hitler's lover, Eva Braun, also belonged to a Jew generation. But Hitler did not know all this. He continued to act against the Jews, considering himself to be a German, and, at the same time, to continue preparations for war. And then, one day he attacked France, and world peace ended. Why did Hitler invade France? Who were the leaders who fainted from the fear of Hitler? Who was it that stood up to Hitler? Did Hitler commit suicide? Or did he go into hiding somewhere? Where did Hitler's body go? The story of the days and nights spent on the German troops in the cold hell of Russia will also be told to you, but in the next episode of The World Facts.